You wake up with clear intentions. You plan to finish your project, hit the gym, and eat a healthy dinner. But by 9 p.m., you are slumped in your chair, scrolling through your phone and eating snacks. This evening shift is a predictable biological state, rather than a failure of your character. Behavioral scientists refer to this process as ego depletion. Ego depletion is the theory that self-control draws on a finite pool of mental resources that drains as you make decisions throughout the day. Every choice you make taxes your prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the specific brain region responsible for complex decision-making and regulating impulses. When you are sleep-deprived and exhausted, this regulatory center physically loses its capacity to manage your emotions and actions. Your brain severs the connections to complex thought processes and defaults entirely to the easiest, least demanding tasks available. Relying on pure effort to overcome this biological drain is a losing strategy. To fix it, we have to look at the underlying physiology. We can do this by building a willpower restoration routine, a structural intervention designed to guarantee maximum mental energy. Step 1 in your routine is the depletion audit. You need to identify the exact time of day when you abandon your complex work and switch to easy, passive tasks. Your self-control relies on physiological resources. When you focus on a hard task or resist a temptation, your brain metabolizes glucose to fuel that effort. Over the course of the day, these reserves run low. As exhaustion sets in, the prefrontal cortex physically begins to decouple from the amygdala. The amygdala is a small structure deep in the brain that processes raw emotions like fear and pleasure. Under heavy fatigue, the regulatory fibers linking your rational control to your emotional responses fray and disconnect. This decoupling leaves you highly volatile. Without the prefrontal cortex keeping it in check, the amygdala overrides your system. You become highly impulsive and entirely unable to resist immediate temptations. By identifying your specific afternoon shift to busy work, you pinpoint the exact biological threshold where your cognitive control fails. This time marker serves as the baseline for your new routine. Step 2 on the checklist is establishing fixed sleep and wake times. You must maintain this schedule 7 days a week. People often focus on sleep duration, but sleep consistency is equally critical. An irregular sleep schedule disrupts your circadian rhythm, preventing your brain from recovering its lost self-regulatory capacity. A circadian rhythm is the internal 24-hour biological clock that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Sleeping in on the weekends to catch up on lost sleep disrupts this clock. Rather than paying off a debt, shifting your hours confuses your biological rhythms and halts the recovery of your emotional regulation systems. Consistent bedtimes allow your brain to literally rebuild the specific neural pathways required to execute complex, demanding tasks the following day. Maintaining a fixed biological rhythm recharges the brain's executive functioning. Sleep duration alone cannot complete the process. Step 3 is the TED shutdown protocol. TED stands for tired, exercise, and diet. You use this protocol in the evening to stabilize your physiological reserves. For the diet component, you need to cut off heavy carbohydrates and sugar 3 hours before bed. This prevents insulin spikes and stabilizes the glucose levels that your brain uses to fuel self-control. For the tired component, turn off overhead lights and screens 1 hour before bed. This prevents the suppression of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone produced by the brain in response to darkness that initiates and coordinates sleep. Positive thinking cannot override a lack of glucose stability or severe melatonin disruption. Your mindset is entirely dependent on this physiological reality. This text highlights the exact network of brain structures implicated in top-down cognitive control, specifically noting the DLPFC and DACC. The DLPFC, or dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex, handles planning and rules, while the DACC, or dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, monitors for conflicts and errors. Top-down cognitive control relies entirely on the physical maintenance of these structures. If your physiological reserves are empty due to poor diet and late-night light exposure, the prefrontal cortex goes completely offline. Regardless of your personal motivation, your willpower drops to 0. Step 4 is the pre-commitment sweep. Every evening, choose one high temptation item and physically restrict your access to it while you still have energy. Behavioral science shows that relying on conscious willpower when you are already sleepy will result in failure. Extreme fatigue shifts your brain activity away from the prefrontal cortex and hands control over to the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is a group of structures deep in the brain that executes automatic, habitual behaviors. This deep brain network operates on autopilot. It drives you toward deeply ingrained, familiar habits without any conscious oversight. Pre-commitment is the act of designing your environment to remove willpower from the equation entirely. You make the hard choice early, before decision fatigue sets in. This means activating an app locker on your devices, physically unplugging your television, or placing your phone in another room to charge. By locking away temptations while you are still energetic, you guarantee that your future exhausted self cannot make the wrong choice. Your completed willpower restoration routine consists of 4 steps: the depletion audit, a consistent sleep schedule, the TED shutdown, and the pre-commitment sweep. By treating your sleep and your evening routine as physiological tools, you actively repair your prefrontal cortex every single night. The payoff comes the next morning. You wake up with a fully charged cognitive battery. Instead of forcing yourself through tasks with sheer effort, you simply execute them with focus and precision. Pin this checklist by your bed to automate your biological recovery. For more systems backed by neuroscience, subscribe to the channel and start your restoration routine tonight.